You're gonna do it like this. We back. We back. Working out the technical difficulties. Back. Another episode of We Need Each Other podcast, episode 13. We're gonna act like all that didn't happen. We have a great show lined up for you. What I did was I sent an invite for my guest as well as my co-host Kayla. So we're just going to just start right there. So Uncle Solomon, if you see the invite, you should be able to just press accept and you can join. And Kayla, we're going to keep on trying with you. We're going to keep on trying with you. We have a great talk today, and we're not going to let that slow the vibe. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. Once again, Uncle Sal, I did send you a request, so we are going to just go live. Real quick, let me set the plate. I was talking to my Uncle Sal, and we was having a great talk. And we was talking about many different things. So I was listening to the things that he was saying on his Facebook. He has so many great, strong opinions, and I wanted to explore them a lot more. And I thought that there would be a great kind of way to really set up a great conversations. At We Need Each Other podcast, we pride ourselves on being internet's most intimate podcast. So we want to tackle the things that people are not talking about, people are afraid to talk about, and I felt my Uncle Sal was the perfect person to do that. So we're just going to stay here while we get him on, and also as I bring my co-host in. The first thing that struck my attention when we was talking was the difference in the perspective of generations. Someone who was of a generation that was far removed from mine, he had a whole nother outlook and way of looking at things than I did. So I wanted to explore that, not in a way of combating what he was saying, but just exchanging information. So I do see Miss Kayla De La Cruz has joined in. Hopefully we can get her to hear her talking. I'm not sure. Uncle Sal, while we're here, I'm also sending you a link so we can get you on deck. And we're going to keep the show going. So, okay, it says I'm connected, but I can't hear anything. Okay, so what we're going to do just throughout this broadcast, we're going to just try and keep on getting Miss Kayla in. And also, hopefully, Uncle Sal sees it. I know we did have some technical difficulties, but we are here. Uncle Sal, I sent you an invite. Okay, so last week when I was thinking about this show, I actually went live with my uncle to just do a mock run of how things are going. And I showed him basically through sending an invite and connected in. I probably should have did a dry run with Kayla too. But what you gonna, okay, there we go. My Uncle Sal is watching. Bring them in on the video. Let's see how that works. All right. Adding you in, you should be there anytime now. I'm going to bring you up. I'm going to have this convo. And then, in the meantime, we're going to stand here, wait for my co-host. All right, big drum roll for my uncle, one of my mentors, a man who I look up to greatly, and it's just an honor to bring you in to have this conversation. So, big drum roll, Uncle Solomon.
Can you see me?
Yes, sir. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very well, thank you.
Okay, cool. So last week we dry run on Facebook, and we wanted to kind of test to see if everything was going right. But I thought it was a thing to do with you because I knew you were unfamiliar with the live, but I probably should have done a test run with my co-host as well.
Right.
So what's happening is she's live on, but it's giving her screen frozen sign, and it's not a lot. So I see her joining, but I don't hear her. So as we talk, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep on periodically just trying to have, hopefully her Wi-Fi or her internet connection clicks and she could just join the conversation. Good to see you, Uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see you. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm awesome. I was giving them some background in terms of where this talk came from. First, just a perspective. And I remember we was having a conversation last week, and you giving me so many things to just think about, so many things that I've never. And I think on a bigger scale, people need to hear these perspectives. People really need to hear perspectives and said loud, because it is a different operational, sometimes in just a mindset. So I think for let me explore you.
So I must tell you that my reception is not that well right now.
Okay.
But where I live, my reception is a maybe where I live. You know, I live so far away from civilization.
Okay. I'll never. So one thing I can say, reception is better than Miss Kayla's reception. No shots fired. But yeah. So as I said, periodically as we're talking, I'm going to keep on trying to add her in, but
Okay.
we're going to just have a conversation and hopefully, alhamdulillah, she'll come in. So
Okay.
so I think it was very good to kind of set the conversation first. When I was putting this conversation to you, I was asking for your wisdom, and one of the things you kept on saying to me was your perspective is not your own, and you was making a point of saying your perspective is coming from a higher place, called a Muslim perspective. And I wanted you to explore what that means when you say the wisdom is not coming from you personally, but when you said it's coming from a Muslim perspective. I want you to expound on that.
Well, you can hear me,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Well, first of all, like I said, my perspective is not my own. Pretty much the views that I have are standard Muslim views. Of course, not all Muslims are the same. You know, some of us are deeper involved into things. I spent quite a number of years studying Arabic and reading the Quran, and so and other things. I have a degree. I studied Latin and Greek and Arabic and Hebrew, and I studied linguistics and all of that stuff. Most people don't know that part of me. Uh, but is she coming in?
I'm trying. Like I said, as we talk, I'll periodically try to ask. What's happening is it's saying that she's joining, but it's not allowing her to fully connect. So like I said, I
Okay.
give up. I'm just going to keep on trying and trying. So hopefully she will just come in. But you can carry on, Unc.
So my perspective is only the uh, understanding I get from reading the Quran, making salat. You call it prayer, but it's really not prayer. It's called salat. It's a different thing altogether than simply prayer. And so, you know, that's where everything comes from. I mean, you know, if you spoke to a Muslim 1,000 years ago and asked them about, you know, their views on sex, well, pretty much the answer that they would give 1,000 years ago is the answer I would give today. So our opinions about things don't change based upon what is popular, what you know, what the ideas that people have. We don't buy them. Our only source is the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad, and that's it. And then of course there's individual studying. You know, everybody studies, and you know, I study a lot of things about people before me, etc. So, you know, but pretty much like my perspective is not my own perspective.
I love that. I'm paraphrasing, but I saw something that you had said, something to the effect of you said when you were young, the only thing you were concerned about was basketball and some other things. And I guess that was before you actually probably came into this knowledge. Or when was that transition for you when you were at one point concerned about sports and maybe entertainment, music, and things of that nature, and when you made the transition to more of an acute form of knowledge?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Well, it's you know, it's a process. I'm still going through the process because the part of being a Muslim is that you're never finished. You're never finished growing, and part of being a human being, if you're living correctly, you never finish growing. And so the Quran, the wisdom in the Quran is infinite, and so we ask Allah to give us a little bit of understanding. Nobody can understand the Quran like it's you know, some sort of textbook or something. It's something else completely. But I would say that somewhere around 17, 18, I started getting introduced to people who were using a different language. They weren't necessarily Muslims. There was a group of people called the Five Percenters. You ever heard of them?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So I kept on meeting these Five Percenters. I remember I worked in the zoo, at the Bronx Zoo, and I met a guy who was a 5%. He had, he could talk for hours and hours and hours, and I would listen for hours and hours. And again, the 5%ers are not Muslims in the sense of what they believe, but this opened my ears, because I was starting to have feelings myself about being a black man in America and et cetera, et cetera. So it crept up on me piece by piece. And then when I was about 19, I met somebody by the name of Abdullah Akhtab, and I was working at Macy's, and he was a Muslim. He and I are still friends, and he did a lot of talking to me, a lot of talking. He was very funny, and he invited me to go to the mosque on 116th Street in Harlem. And then I started going there, and that's when everything kind of started gradually. Turning into a Muslim is a very, very gradual thing.
Okay.
The people who go into it and try to get onto it so heavy in the beginning, they never last.
Okay.
Because the change from being, because we are all socially engineered. All black people in this country are socially engineered. In other words, it's no accident that, millions of young black men want to play basketball, because that's how they have rigged it. They have been socially engineered to believe that their hope in life and that their potential is connected to basketball. So I was one of just the regular socially engineered young black men who not a part of the process of building America, and I certainly was not political anyway. I had no sense of politics. I had no sense of all of the things that govern the affairs, but that is very typical. That was very, very typical in those days. So we're socially engineered to think things about ourselves, that we're just sports people, that's our only hope in life, is some sort of a football or basketball, and then of course I wanted to sing and play the guitar. Playing the guitar was good for me. Studying guitar, because I studied music, very seriously. But in any case, it's a very, very gradual thing. You don't just one day, and I met many guys like that. They would be in the streets smoking weed, looking at girls' booties, and then, 2 weeks later, they were these devout Muslims. Well, you know what? It doesn't happen that way. It's so gradual. It's so gradual, and learning to read Arabic is a must. If you want to be a Muslim, you can't understand the Quran or even know what the Quran is or have any idea what it is until you study Arabic and start reading it in Arabic. That's the difference. So most people, so people think, oh, the Quran is the Muslim Bible. No, it's not. It's not a Bible, first of all. You see, so what happens is that people look at things based upon their exposure to Christianity, and they think that, oh, that's just the Muslim. Oh, the Muslims are just a different kind of a Christian, But no, there's so much. So there's so much to it, and the process is very, very gradual, and very, 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 very long. You just don't. There's no magic. You got to go through a lot of changes. You got to dig deep into your soul.
I love it.
Dig deep.
Not to
deep.
But when you were giving me, it's like a definition of Muslim. You were saying, Islam's not religion. You were saying it's a mission to God. It's a mission to God, or it's the will of God. I'm not sure exactly how you put that.
Right. Islam is not a religion. It is a process.
Okay.
So so submission. Islam means the submission, and a Muslim is one who submits. That they surrender and believe that there is a higher being in control of everything, who created the entire universe, and we use the Arabic word Allah, and that's the our sound that we use for the creator. And so the idea is that when you're young, you have a lot of drives and passions and all of that stuff, and you can really get lost in your own drives and passions. But then you realize that your drives and your passions lead you to a funky, ugly place. And so, so you realize, oh, there's something beyond me. There's something beyond what I want, what I think, what my desires are, what my drives are, what my passions are. You can't follow those things, because those things will only lead you to a dead end. So, so the person who's a Muslim says, you know what, I'm going to seek the guidance of the Almighty. And that's what a Muslim is.
Amen. Wow.
That's, go ahead.
I have a bunch of, I've been waiting to have this conversation, especially live, for a while. So I had just compiled it. I remember a few years ago, right? Can you hear me?
I'm having a little difficulty, but go ahead.
Okay, so a few years ago, I remember you had a status on Facebook. It said something to effect, once again, I'm paraphrasing. You said, we went from Black Power to Superfly in a matter of years, or something like that. I think he was describing the, I don't know if it was like late 60s, early 70s. Once again, I'm paraphrasing. You said we went from Black Power to Superfly, and you was questioning, like, how did that happen in the process of that? I want you to just go into that a little more.
Well, we're being constantly socially engineered by the people who run this society.
Okay.
They mold us into the image they want us to believe we should be in. So they do this through music, primarily through movies, through television, and all of that stuff. So they're socially engineering us all the time. And we don't have our own minds until you kind of take yourself away from pop culture and take yourself away from that for a while and get your own mind back, because your mind is there, but it's buried underneath the commercials. It's underneath all of that music that there's no guidance in it. It's just something that you like or whatever. It's buried in all of that. It's buried in pornography and all of these things, So you have to step away from pop culture and get your own natural, God-given mind back. That's the process. But the more you immerse yourself in pop culture, the less you'll have your own mind. You'll be socially engineered.
A quote from you, right? Grabbed a couple of things. He said, listening to tens of thousands of love ruined our character, And
yes.
I thought that was profound, because some people view love songs as something beautiful that actually bringing us together, but to have that perspective on it, tell me more about it. How we ruined that.
Well, the attraction between men and women is a natural thing. Nobody has to hear a song to be attracted to the opposite sex. Okay. So, but those love songs, they ruin our character because, first of all, most of them are about fornication. They're not about love. They're about screwing, about having sex. They're not, marriage is a very, very, very complex thing. Human relationships are very complex, and these love songs, they're ridiculous. They are, you are everything. Really, you're everything. Somebody's going to make you happy. I'm going to make you happy. No, no, none of this is real. It's all based on fantasy.
Mm.
And it doesn't prepare you for the complexities and the difficulties of a human relationship with another human being.
Okay.
Because it's nothing like those love songs. Nothing.
Mm. Mm.
Because every human being is an extremely complex person. And every human being is so complex that they don't understand, myself included, your own personality or what's in you. You don't really know that.
Mm.
You might know something about how you've lived so far, but you don't know what you're capable of. You don't know how you're going to change, because people change. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. All kind of ugly things happen and to people.
Mm.
So a relationship is very, very, very complex, and these love songs reduced the complexity of it to ridiculous notions. You are everything. My whole world ended the moment you left me. Really? So you have no life at all because somebody left you? Like you're done? I mean, so so these things just are a waste of, I don't want to say a waste, but I want to say this, that they're misleading.
Okay.
If you listen to a love song, say, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like the way Luther sang that song. It's meaningless, but he sang it very nicely. It has nothing to do with the reality of life, but he sang it so well. Okay, I get it. You like the way a person sings. But the message in those songs had nothing to do with preparing people for life and preparing people for adulthood.
It sounds so. Is there? I definitely get your. So someone just professing their love to their wife and publicly saying, I love this woman. Maybe not in a fantasy way. I love this woman more than life, or the way they picture it, but they just having the expression of love. Now, that's a healthy thing.
I would say this to people. But what if you're married and you don't love your wife? There are a lot of people are married and they don't love each other anymore.
Mm. I considered that. I don't know. Tell me more.
I mean, marriage is a complex thing. Marriage is a very, very, very it's a beautiful thing, but it takes a lot of soul searching and all kind of things to dig within yourself in order to make things happen. Because it's normal for people to be in relationships and their feelings change, based upon all kind of things that they never expected, things that they didn't even know about themselves. That's the point, is that nobody knows themselves. So we don't know what's going to happen when you meet somebody. A lot of relationships start off wonderful because, well, first of all, they're having sex first before they're even talking, they have like 3 months of sex before they even have a conversation. So, so of course, you don't even know who you're dealing with.
Mm.
So, it's so in any case, life is more complex. When I say it ruined our character, in that men are not supposed to, like if you were born in the 60s and you were part of the civil rights movements and things like that, men had roles to play. They couldn't, of course, they loved their wife and they loved their children, but they couldn't be walking around singing that song while the police are busting upside their heads. Oh, I love you, baby. I mean, Life was more serious than that. The love is understood. That's just understood. But now we got business to take care of. I got to figure out, we got to figure out how to stop, how to raise our children. We got to decide about the school curriculums. We have to decide, where we want to live, being a black man in America. There's so many things to work out. So when I say ruined our characters, we focused on meaningless things that have nothing to do with life. So they socially engineer us into sports, love songs, because they do this by the process of giving awards. You see, when they pay an athlete $5 million, they know what they're doing. They're sending the message loud and clear to all of the young people saying, look, if you want to have money, if you want to get out the hood, if you want to be somebody, pick up a basketball, pick up a football, and be all you can be with your football, your basketball, because that's all you can be.
So once again, paraphrase, right? You had something you said, if a bomb dropped on your house, would you care who won the game?
Yeah, because sports are used to depoliticize us.
Okay.
The only function of sports is to stop people from thinking about the conditions of their own lives, and also to make you a non-political person. And you're not caring about anything because you're not really thinking. You're involved in these sports, and these sports are everything. Who won the game? Really? That's important? Like your whole world is going to be by a game? Really?
Yeah.
Now, when you're young, of course, it's one thing to think that. But when you're a person who has lived in the world for a long time, and you see the struggle and suffering all around the world, your mind, you can't think about these things at all, because you're thinking about the Knicks. Oh, what are my Knicks doing? Oh, there's an earthquake in, unfortunately, my heart goes out to the people in Turkey and Syria, thousands of people dying. Oh, I ain't got no time to think about that because there's a Knicks game on tonight. Really? Because it takes out of life itself. Because you're not participating with the rest of the world. You're living in a small, and it's done deliberately. Again, these are socially engineered things, just like commercials are designed to stick in your head with the jingles and the music they use. These are scientifically designed things. These are not haphazard things at all. So, again, but this is it, they socially engineer us and for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and not to touch you, how ironic that we're having a conversation with the upcoming Super Bowl coming this Sunday. We have millions upon millions of people who are going to be in front of a TV looking to see who won the game, So just playing real quick. So playing devil's advocate as well. What do you say to someone that says, hey, I just enjoyed the game. I am concerned with who wins, but after the game, I go back to struggle. I go back to pick up stuff. Is there anything wrong with just enjoying the game or having some beers with a friend and then getting back to work later?
Well, like everything else, it all depends. Like, look, if you listen to one love song, it's no big deal. But when you are listening to these things for 6 and 7 hours throughout the day, that's a problem. So, okay, You want to watch one game a week? Okay, so what? No problem. It's only when that's the only thing you are consumed by it. You are addicted to it. That's the problem. It's just like if a person smokes one cigarette a week, well, ain't no big deal. But if you're smoking like, 5 or 6 packs in a week, then that's a problem. You're setting yourself up for lung cancer. So that, sure, you can dip for a second and come out of it, but that's not what's happening. People sit around and all day long they can talk about sports. All day long for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. Well, see, that's the problem. I got 5 or 10 minutes where I can look at a little bit of something, but that's it.
But not to be fixated on it.
I'm not fixated on it all, and I don't care who wins. I don't care who wins the game. Because one thing about professional sports is that, especially, basketball and football, the referees, it seems to me, decide who wins a playoff and who wins a game. Because if you look at football, on every play, somebody's doing something wrong. They could throw a flag on every play. So they overlook certain things. They overlook in basketball, they overlook certain fouls, person's going down the lane and they're clobbered and, there's just no call. And then somebody touches your hand when you shoot and you get a call. So the refs determine everything. So getting involved in who wins and the ref is going to tell. You should speak to the refs first. They'll tell you who's going to win the game. The ones who get the calls that they give. So it's
capitalism. It's commercial. Capitalism. It doesn't at its best. It's commercializing the game. So real quick, before we go any further, really, I just acknowledge. I know we have some family in here. Beautiful. I saw my mom in here. I saw David in here. I saw Jamal. I saw my brother. I just want to acknowledge everyone part of this conversation. Thank you for coming in. But yeah.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
I want to acknowledge everyone that came. So one thing that I think it's very real when you're saying the addictive nature of these things. Sports, music. We can definitely see how sex is like greatly addictive for people, from pornography to just seeing pornography on Facebook these days. I went on and clicked on someone's story, and it was literally pornography right there on Facebook, and that's crazy. So when we were talking about it, you even said how sex is about like money, almost like transferring it. Everything is about money, about selling something. And I think when we're talking about sports, about music, even our demise and our arguing, they find a way to just capitalize off selling it to us. So they don't care if they deter or tear down our community, as long as they can bottle it up, package it up, and sell it. So I want you to just speak to the commercial and the capitalism that surrounds sex in general, or sports in general. I remember.
Well, first of all, when we're young, we make a lot of mistakes when we're young. We don't know anything. Our hormones kick in and we act a fool. Pretty much. But we live in a capitalist society, this is true, and everything is about money. But also we live in a society that depoliticizes you. And the people who run the society, who put images out there and all of that, the ones who give people awards, if a woman walks on stage half naked or naked, she gets millions of dollars. So what is the message? That
you can get money.
yeah, if you do that, you'll get money. So this is what it is. So and so they cleverly break down the family structure and break down the relationship between men and women with these love songs and these things. They actually break down the relationship because, you ever hear of shotgun weddings?
Um, I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar with it. What it actually is.
Well, years and years ago, if a girl ended up pregnant, you know, her father would go to the guy who's pregnant with a shotgun in his hand and said, "You are getting married.
Mm.
It's marriage or death. You take your choice." So, what happened? So they cleverly socially engineered black women into believing that they don't need men.
Mm.
They didn't need black men at all. That was just a social. I mean, it started with I think it was welfare or something, where a woman with children could get government help under condition that no man was in your house.
Mm.
So as time went on, this has escalated to the point where there are women who actually plan their life with baby daddies. And they plan their economic future based upon baby daddies. Well, I'm going to have 5 babies from different daddies who have money, and I'm going to get child support from each one. And so I'll have about $4,000 a month, because all of my baby daddies are going to be paying me money.
Mm.
It's a very sick idea. They actually planned that because women, black men and black women in particular in this country don't like to the feeling of believing that they've been socially engineered. They feel like they have their own mind, but if they ever go somewhere else, they'll see that they don't.
Mm.
They'll see that they don't. It's like I went to speaking about sex, I went to City College, and there was a man there who worked. He had a truck that he sold food. It was very good, tasty food, outside of one of the college buildings. And he was young. He dressed up in African garb and all of that. He was born and raised here in America, but he decided he wanted to go to Africa because he was very tired of things that he saw here. He decided to go to Africa, and he did, and he came back, because he realized something. First of all, that I don't know what country he went to or what particular city, but in that way he went, they actually had a family structure where there were men and women who are married with children, grandchildren, grandparents. They have a real family. And the real family of men and the real family of women. So you just can't walk into that. And so he didn't know how American he was. He was reading up about Africa and blah, blah, blah. And so he met a young lady, and he decides he's going to run his American game. And the American game is to meet a woman, you're sexually attracted to her, you have sex for a little while, then you tell her, "I don't think you're the one for me," and vice versa. And so he starts to run the game, and then knock, knock, knock on his door. Well, the whole family of men showed up at his door, and they explained to him, "You don't just come in here and talk to our niece, our niece, our cousin, our daughter, our sister. You can't do that. You got to come through us. We got to know exactly what your intentions are. We got to know exactly what you're going to do.
Right.
But you're not going to screw her, and then do the American thing, the Black American thing, and say, well, baby, this ain't really working out.
No.
So in America, Black men and women, and all white women and white men too, are unrepentant fornicators. And they don't understand how horrible that is. Is one of the most destructive things, because young men, if you knew, for example, you're 17, 18, and you knew that you are not going to have any parts of a woman unless you are productive enough to support her, unless you are, developing your life. So when you do reach her, and she had, inshallah, she has a family, of her father and her brothers and whatever, you can walk up to them and say, hey man, I love this woman, I got my own business, I'm not rich or anything, but I love her, and I got a place for us, blah blah blah, I'm going to be working here, so it's different. But because you can have sex with anybody, anytime, anywhere, your soul is ruined. And remember that for Muslims, success is not based upon money. It's not based on having children. It's not based upon having a lot of things, but it's based upon the condition of your soul. There's a chapter in the Quran where it says the believers have already succeeded. They have already succeeded. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Those people who are humble in their salats, in their quote-unquote prayers. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّهِ مُعْرِضُونَ. And those people who avoid cooling down, tap to learn more. Hold on, I got something went wrong. Oh yeah, and so those people who avoid useless, meaningless talk. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. And those who guard their modesty, because modesty is the dress code of a Muslim man and a Muslim woman. You should both be dressed modestly, because modesty brings out the best in people. All of that show and everything brings out the worst in people. Brings out the worst. It brings out the beast in men. Phew. So, Muslims, like I say, this isn't my idea. Allah says in the Quran that to restrain yourself until marriage. That's all. You go to any Muslim country and you ask them, what do you think about that? They say the same thing. And Allah says in the Quran, that's the situation. So, but we live in a society of unrepentant fornicators because it helps the capitalistic design of breaking down your moral fiber, breaking down your intelligence, breaking down your moral fiber, because then they can sell you anything.
Wow.
They break you down morally and intellectually until you are perfect for the whole capitalist design of life. Because a group of people decide what we live in. A capitalism is a design made by men. It's not made by Allah. It's not made by God. Capitalism. It's an economic choice. And so the way they've and the capitalists have structured life. So therefore, any I lost my train of thought for a second. But it's like this. Like there's nothing American industry would not fall apart if instead of making people work 6 days, 5, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, a person should work about 3 or 4 days maximum and have the 3 other days to do the other things in life that are more important or equally important. Spending time with your children, like for example, having time to spend with your children, having time to visit relatives. But their capitalist design is to break down the family by making everybody work all of these days. And so you have 1 day or 2 days, but a lot of people just 1 day to recover.
Right. Getting right back to it.
And you get right back to it. So you can't do these important things like spend the day speaking to relatives.
Right.
Visiting relatives, spending time with your children,
Right.
organizing political events.
Right.
See, this is a deliberate design. This is not happenstance or anything. By the way, I love your pictures that you have on the wall of my sister, my nephew, and my mother. Both of my sisters, my Uncle Bob, who was the greatest man I knew he was the greatest man I knew in this family, Uncle Bob.
Yes. Yes. Wow. One thing that I kind of get on, that I really take heed to when I talk to you was, okay, so my Uncle John, he was my teacher. And that's my mother's brother, my Uncle John. And he was your young, so it was like he was my teacher and you were his teacher. And speaking to you, I understand exactly why you guys had the relationship that you got. So that wisdom that you imparted in him, he in turn imparted in me. And for me to have the direct connection to you now, it's like such a value to me, because I would say my teacher's teacher or my OG. So it's just beautiful to just sit here and kind of listen to you and gain this perspective, because you are literally my teacher's teacher. And it's
Well, John, you know, there's a lot of family history that I can't go into now because it's not the time or the place. I wish I could, because there's so much I want to tell you guys.
Okay, I got time, but not now, but we got time. Yes.
Yeah, another time, because it's really important to know. Unfortunately, it's what, you know, this family, the men. I know we're switching topics now. I'm going to go off the capitalism now, because that could go on for 9-10 hours. But so in this family, the men fell victim to all kind of things.
Okay, we're getting personal now.
Okay. But you know, these aren't things that were just this family. It's a lot of families. You know, how many men have been in prison? You know, I mean, there are 2 million people in prison right now. So, and half of them are black. So 1 million black men are in prison right now as you and I speak.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's a deliberate design as well.
Absolutely.
Of the black psyche. You know, and they've been socially engineered and based primarily from public school.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of public school is not to teach you anything, but to indoctrinate you. And then for black males in particular, is to weed out the black males who they recognize have leadership potential, and to criminalize them.
Mm.
And the process of criminalizing them begins by teachers overreacting to every little thing a black male child does. you got to go in the corner now. You got to go see the principal. Certain things. So you're always in trouble, and this keeps on working on you, and you start to believe that that's that you are just not really worth very much, and so so the public school system does that to black boys, and deliberately. Again, these are things that are planned. They are not just happening. That's that pop culture mentality to believe that things are just happening and that other people aren't working behind the scenes to make certain kind of things happen. So,
absolutely. Do you know? I think that speaks to the importance of the teachers at home, or the importance of uncles like you or cousins. And I do want to say something because of a talk that we had about a month ago. As you know, I started a once a month men's call that we actually had last Tuesday, I believe, and all of the men in our family were invited to get on this call so we can not only build each other, but we can trade ideas, areas of expertise. But it stemmed from the conversation that we're having in terms of speaking to the need for an internal kind of amongst us men, as cousins, as uncles, and as fathers. So definitely say thank you to that. And I even say Dave even said you got to be on the next meeting, Unc. So we're going to get together once a month, the first Sunday in every month, and we're going to kind of build in this kind of regard, because we need an internal kind of form of communication between us, or internal education that goes beyond what we're being told in schools or what we're being told on the internet. So,
oh yeah, definitely. I must commend you, Joshua, for taking the initiative, and all of you, David, yourself, Zarek, Jamal, there's somebody
Roy,
else.
Terrence,
Roy. And Roy.
cousin Kirk was on the line. Cousin Liam was on the line. Cousin Leo was on the line. So it was a bunch of us, and it was a great building. But it just speaks to everything that we were talking, eating this building outside of what we were socialized to know. We're building our own kind of form of knowledge internally as a family. But it stems from a conversation that me and you were having, and I saw the necessity for it.
Yes, it's a good thing. I don't know how much more time you have, but
we got a few more minutes. Go ahead, my brother. We got a few more minutes.
No, there's the problem is there's so much to say in so little time.
Absolutely. This is
there's so much to listen to, and that there's so little time. It's a process, and that's what I was talking about, the capitalist design, to keep you unable to communicate with people the way you need to. That's not an accident. It's not an accident that we don't have much time to talk and do this or that with each other. That's design. That's capitalism at its best.
At its best.
At its best, it's a social design.
Wow.
And I know we didn't talk about sex or anything, but let me just say let me just say this, that like my friend who went to Africa, he saw that it was not that everybody doesn't live this way. They don't accept this way, and so the black families, I mean, there's so much to say about it. But being a man is a very special thing. Being a man is a very, very special thing. And that specialness of being a man is that's what you're being socially engineered, singing these "I love you, baby, you're my everything, baby, I can't live without you, baby." Well, that's a man. Does that sound like a man to you? That doesn't sound that, because that is not a man. And so Men have to get them. We have to get ourselves together and talk. What you're saying is absolutely correct, and what you're doing is absolutely correct. So that men can learn how to be men again and deal with the issues of manhood, social interaction, building families again, husband and wife and children. You know, not all of this playing, I'm having sex with somebody, so I'm not, so now I just call her wifey now. You know what? all of this foolishness, wifey. No, either you're married or you're not. Somebody can't be your wifey. Either they're your wife or they're not your wife.
Mm.
So all of this foolishness, our lives are steeped in foolishness, absolute foolishness.
Mm.
And we've been socially engineered that way.
So, Unks, which sets it up for my perfect point. Another quote that I got from you. You said, marriage is the only serious thing between a man and a woman. Everything else is childish. So I want you to kind of take us out on that, just expound on that. And what would you say to a young man who's on the verge of questioning whether he should get married or not? And speak to the importance of that statement. Marriage is the only serious thing between a man and a woman. Everything else is childish.
Well, you know, years ago, people got married for survival. You couldn't survive unless you were married. Many men, many women, they got married. Of course, they loved each other, but it's survival. Here's an example of what I mean. I had a stroke, right? And I was in the hospital for a week. Do you know that Teresa, my wife, spent the night in the hospital every night I was there in the hospital? She wasn't acting like wifey. She was acting like a wife. Wifey means I'm just playing.
Mm.
So here I had a stroke, and she was critically crucial to speaking with the doctors and doing all of these things that I couldn't do at that time.
Mm.
So if I didn't have my wife with me, who was going to do that?
Right. Mm.
It's not a game.
Not a game. Mm.
You know, wifey, please.
That's
nigga, please.
Okay, that volumes, man. And what I want to do is highlight some of the people in our family who are really taking a step to not motivating me to understanding the bond between husband and wife. Cousin Dave, Jamal, those two in particular first come to mind in terms of our generation, really leading the movement and showing me the importance of really getting a wife and not a wifey. And so,
notice the critical thing. You bring up David and Jamal. Notice their father. Very serious, very smart, serious, dedicated man. It's no accident that they decided to get married and build a family because they have an example in their life. A real example of a real man who's always been in touch with them. It's not like he disappeared for 18 years and then he showed up again.
He's always, yes.
All the time. So when they reach a certain point in their life, in their development, so doing the next thing of getting married is a very simple thing for them because of that example. When their mother and their father, they didn't just have them out of wedlock, they had them. They were married. David and Cherie were married.
Example. Absolutely. I want to say, didn't want to cut you off. Just highlight when I went to Dave's wedding, man. I sat down and it changed something, a perspective in me, and I need to understand how serious it is. Like I said, as even a matter of survival, a matter of partnership, a matter of making.
And people got married in the old days to build a family and to build a business together, to build something together. It's not about a love song. It's about building a life together.
Mm. Amen.
And even if they're not feeling so wonderful about each other, they have a life together.
Amen.
You know,
Wow.
this
is beautiful.
I think it's a beautiful thing if you will, to go through the process.
So the purpose of this talk, okay, so now to highlight the name of my podcast, and I'm so sad that my co-host Kayla didn't get a chance to really partake in this, but we started this podcast because conversations like this need to be had. So we titled it "We Need Each Other" podcast because we need to have interactions like this, and it started on men and women having great conversations, but then it started to expand to conversations that we need in the community. So this is an example of a conversation that needs to be had and needs to be echoed. And I love to have them privately, but as well publicly, so it can be broadcast. So people without an uncle like you, they can get some insight. So I want to say thank you for taking the time, not only for sharing with me, for sharing with my audience as well. This is what we really need to have. And you're awesome, Unc. You're really awesome.
Well, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. All praise is due to Allah for anything good that happens. It's because Allah, the Creator. You can say whatever you want to say, but if a good thing has happened, it's only because of the Creator and nothing else. And nothing else. That's how it is. So, inshallah, we just keep on trying our best. And you're doing a great job, Joshua. And so when you have the next talk, I can listen in.
Okay, I definitely will keep you updated. And on the 5th of March, we're going to have our talk with the men in our family, and I would definitely love to do that.
That's a Sunday, right?
That's Sunday, so it'll be the first Sunday of every month that we're going to just.
Oh, great. All right. So what is the format? Is that like a phone call?
Yeah.
Or something?
We get together on Zoom. I basically send out the Zoom link to every male in our family. And this is also to kind of put it out there for any male in our family who's connected to me. Tap in with me, send me a text. But it's a way of building in this way that we're building right now, but on a broader scale and inviting other perspectives into it. So basically we just hop on a Zoom call once a month as a way of connecting, but also opening up the areas of communication. So during the month we can reach out. So I had conversations with cousins that I haven't spoke to in years. And I've reached out to in terms of form of connection. It's really spawned some incredible things. So it's just planting the seeds that we need each other. No pun intended we need each other.
No question about it. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam, Unc. Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for playing a part, everyone who tuned in, everyone who commented, everyone who liked, shared, or subscribed. Once again, shout out to my co-host, Kayla, Miss Kayla Dale. I'm sorry you wasn't here for this, but we will be on the next one, and we'll get this Facebook thing together. Usually we're on Instagram, but this Facebook thing, we're kind of new to this. So,
okay. I will get an Instagram account.
So that means
you're like 40 years behind in technology, but
hey,
I gotta.
That sounds good. Yo, Ja, I love you, man. Dave, I love you. Brian, I see you. Lawrence, I see you. Everyone who is there, thank you for tuning in. I wish we had more time to talk. And until next time, I see you on the next episode of We Need Each Other podcast. Love you.
Love you too. Now, bye bye.